All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second day of International Public Employment Services Symposium, an event under the International Public Employment Forum 2021, or better known as IPEF 2021. So my name is Mohammad Shafi Anand, and I'll be your host for this morning session, where we'll be talking about one very interesting topic on uplifting and safeguarding the rights of vulnerable demographics. So joining us virtually today is someone who is very well known, very prominent in the country. She is the Senate member of the Parliament of Malaysia, representing the disabled community, and who is also the founder of OKU Central. So the one and only, let me introduce you to YB Senator Datuk Ras Adiba Razi. Welcome to the program, Datuk Ras. How are you doing there?
I'm good. Terima kasih. Thank you, Shafiq, for inviting me. Alhamdulillah, I'm good.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you. So, Dr. Ras, can I just start by asking you the first question? In your opinion, what are the biggest challenges persons with disabilities actually are facing when they are searching for jobs?
Okay. Well, PWDs or OKU, we face a daunting task when we try to find employment. That's an everyday struggle for all of us. We face not only, the hardships as a result of our disability, but also we have to compete with able-bodied workers, especially during this current situation, this pandemic, but also able-bodied workers who are recent school and college graduates. And, this competition is tough for us. Not only we have to compete against ourselves, but also the masses out there. So many employers are really reluctant to hire our services. And even though we may possess the necessary skills and qualification for the job, employers, I have to be very honest with you, they fear because, having us, they fear that, they might have to increase their health insurance costs, and the need to provide, accommodations to them is expensive, but in actual fact, it's not so expensive if you know how to work your way around it. And also we have to face the perceived need to, they have to face the perceived need to deal with adverse reaction, from customers, when they see a person with disability working in an environment, in the company or in the shop. They're like, are they able to attend and speak to the people who come to the shops, And we also face discrimination, not just by people coming, their perception towards us, one, but also employees themselves, and also the people, our co-workers and also supervisors who, quite honestly, sometimes they are uncomfortable to be with a PWD. I have to be very, very honest with you, because I have a sister who's deaf, and she often has trouble because she cannot hear, and they don't have sign language interpreters. And sometimes they get really frustrated because they're not able to communicate with her, whereas in actual fact, they can write, and what they do is sometimes, Shafiq, they actually show their expression, that they are not happy with having us around working in the environment. So that's what my sister faced, and she succumbed to the stress, and she decided to give up, which in actual fact we should be supporting. So yeah, persons with disability, the OKUs, disabled, we want and we need to work because we need to earn a livelihood. We have families, we have to care for ourselves. We need to buy supplies, medical supplies, our medicines, and also gadgets, to improve, our life, our movements. And we also enjoy, to mingle around socially. We want to do things like everybody else. So that's why we really need to work. And also it's wonderful for our self-esteem. And having said that, I just want to recap again. I always share this with everybody. 15% under WHO, 15% of the countries of a particular country or a country's population are disabled. So if you're in Malaysia, it's 32 million. That means 4.7 million of us are out there. And the ones that's registered with the welfare department is only less than 600,000. So there's about 4.6 million of my friends out there who hasn't been registered with the welfare department. And also people don't know that we exist, and they only know when we come out And some of us also, we don't register ourselves because we don't want to be discriminated. So Malaysians who are OKUs, we represent a visible, respected and sizable community. Well, as I mentioned just now, 4.7 million, while the country is rapidly transforming to meet new challenges of a knowledge-based economy, disabled people, the OKUs, are still struggling to obtain basic rights in all areas of life, especially employment. Although various attempts have been made, you can see a lot of changes. Alhamdulillah, this is 2021. A lot more people are coming in to actually employ us and to give us support, give us the opportunity. But, there's still a long way to go. And what we are doing right now is to discuss on how best we can support them, one, and how best we can create awareness, and what are some of the other things that we can do to make sure that the disabled people in the country are empowered. So in order to make employment for PWDs a reality, now a few things have to happen immediately. Our rights to employment and the special needs of our circumstances must be taken into account through supportive legislation, strong enforcement, and also active monitoring. And then there's physical access to the building environment, the built environment, especially the access to the workplace, and within should be free of barriers through suitable modifications. I give an example. If you have someone who is deaf working with you, you must make sure you have those emergency alert lights, because say if someone wants to call them, they can't communicate unless, of course, they use the telephone. And if there's an emergency, if there is no light, alarm light that goes on, meaning flashing, then most of my deaf friends are unable to comprehend or to receive that message. And another thing is when we have somebody who is blind, we must make sure that the software used, are there for them, and also the use of Braille. And if there are videos that we want to circulate amongst our staff and our workers, we must make sure that the video has audio as well, not just graphics, not just music, so things like that are very, very important. I'm sorry if you're hearing a bit of sound. But yeah, these are some of the stuffs that we need to work on modifying. And another thing is the negative public perceptions about PWDs. It must be removed, and we should be given opportunity to participate in decision-making processes. I give an example, like right now when we're doing something, you must make sure that there is a sign language interpreter so that everyone is able to comprehend what we're trying to disseminate, we want to send out to the masses. And our public service announcement is very important. So like what all of you are doing, you guys are always sending out visuals, always sending out messages, and that really helps because you keep reminding the community that there's such a talk, there's such a cause, these are the support that is given, this is, and that, we don't discriminate anyone. So yeah, what we are discussing today is also making sure that everyone out there is on the same page, that everyone must include OKUs in the decision making, nothing about us without us. And if we are doing something in our committee and it's something that is related to the disabled, for example, or even in general, please make sure there is one person with disability in that team.
Now, talking about that, Datuk Ras Adiba, even if the person with disabilities actually manage to secure a job, they may not be able to perform their job very well at the workplace. This is probably due to some reasons, but it could be one of the reasons where there's no special arrangement that's been set up to accommodate to their needs or their requirements. So what do you think are some of the main workplace obstacles that prevent this group of people actually from excelling at or doing their job?
That's a very good question, actually. Not many people ask us that question because people always do things and they don't realize that what they're doing does not comply to our needs. We're like everybody else. I remind everybody, everyone will become disabled one day. So whatever facilities that you do for the disabled, for example, disabled toilets, the parking, the ramps, the handrails, the tactiles, all these little things are actually for everyone, because eventually we all need to use it one way or another. So apart from discrimination, PWDs, OKUs also face a lack of amenities in the workplace. Some companies hire PWDs, but they decide against creating a disabled-friendly accommodation. You say, for example, I'm giving so many examples, but for someone who's using a wheelchair, like for myself, okay, if my table is too low, I can't wheel my wheelchair in, and I will hurt my legs. And if it's too high, it'll be like that, and it's difficult for me to work. And sometimes when they actually have toilets, the toilets for the OKUs for the disabled, the toilet always end up to become a storeroom, and it's ridiculous. And the parking spaces is always they're always abused by other people who are not disabled. So yeah, there are many problems faced by us after being hired, but there is they always say, oh, we don't have to do this because there's not many of you working. But you know what, one day some of other able-bodied staffs might need these facilities. So we really need to do a proper survey, and nevertheless, these problems should not be taken lightly, as it could put a stop to the effort of achieving the target of 1% of PWDs in employment by 20. Now it's 2021. 1% of PWD employed. There's about only 3 ministries that has surpassed that 1%. Therefore, the government must continue to ensure there's proper research to get to the cause of why this is continuously happening. Employers require quality in their work, but in order for you to have quality, you must look after your people, able or disabled. So there's no argument about it, So they want to ensure that the employees' performance be assessed and discussed. Yeah, that you can do by making sure that there is a unit to support persons with disabilities. Yeah, and in making sure that you understand why they need what they need. Shafiq, sometimes, like I said, people do stuff, but they don't really ask us, and they just do it, and in the end, it's redundant. So. And employers actually should attend the DET training, Disability Equalities training. I'm one of the trainers, and DET training is on, the trainers are only the disabled. So in order for the able-bodied to understand us, we have to be there. We can't have a trainer who is an able-bodied, because they will know how it feels like to be disabled. So in this DET training, what we do is we get the able-bodied to be in our shoes and to breathe, to eat, to sleep, and to think and move just as us, so that they understand what it feels like to be a disabled for those few days. This training is supported by the welfare department, and so that everyone has a better understanding of us. And the government has also introduced an employment support service program called job coaching. I'm so happy for the job coaching program. Thank you so much for doing that, because I have friends who are, say, for example, autistic. They want to work, but the people who employed them don't know what are their needs, how to communicate with them. Why are they behaving this way? Why are they behaving that way? Yeah. So this program focuses on coaching the PWDs, the OKUs, in securing employment. And then there's also the mentorship there. So the mentors, always monitor and come back. The job coaches will be there to make sure that everything is okay, and also to not only make sure that the OKUs are okay, but also that the employers is understanding what is going on and how best we can empower them. Furthermore, career service centers needs to be established for the OKUs by providing knowledge, skills, and a support system. These centers can initiate access to quality infra, which supports the PWDs, the OKUs, and to enable access to world-class education, skill development, and high-quality health systems. This limitation of proper infrastructure is because of unaffordable and expensive costs which needs to be carried out by the government. Okay, this is something that I like to press and stress. Whatever we do, we must not always have to fall back to the government to make the conditions better, your workplace better for persons with disability, for the OKUs. We must take it upon ourselves under our CSI programs to make sure that we spend a tiny wee bit. If we know how to plan it properly and we get the consultations from people who are experts in their fields on how to make environments friendly for persons with disability for the OKUs, then it will not cost more. What I suggest is, I always speak to my architect friends and I say, when we have people who are building buildings or they want to refurbish their buildings, make sure that they get the correct spec and make sure that they get the experts to come in. So many governments, on the other hand, many governments in industrialized or developed country have been fully concentrated to give a better ICT infra to all segments of persons with disability. But right now, I can also tell you that not all of my friends have access to the internet. That's one. And the other thing is not everyone has telephones, which allows them to be able to do things, using their phone. Some of them can't even, they don't even know how to, say, for example, fill out a Google form like that. So we need to train them.
Okay. That's interesting to know that actually. So Dr. Ras, as you probably know, other than we help to place PWDs or person with disabilities in suitable jobs, we're also educating especially the employers actually to provide a conducive environment for the person with disabilities to work with. So can you tell us or maybe share with us what are some of the efforts that have been made by other agencies out there to promote the rights of persons with disabilities, especially in the workplace area?
Okay, there are a lot of companies right now who are giving job opportunities for my community. Some hypermarkets, some private companies, and also NGOs actually. But Gamuda, for example, they have this enabling academy where they actually support persons with disability under the ASD, autism spectrum disorder, where they train, they have like a mock-up office space. So they trained, say, for example, the autism group, the autistic group, or others with, learning disability. And they support them like how to use a computer, how to do this, how to clean, what you need to do, this paper goes where and everything. So, and then after that, they have a job coach later when they get jobs. They have job coaches who will actually monitor them to make sure that everything is as what has been taught. And if something comes up, then these job coaches will also, inform the OKUs on how and what to do and how to move. Okay, if you have someone who's on the spectrum who are autistic, you must make sure that you have a space where they can chill, and don't use jarring and bright red colors or flashing lights. Use a lot of pastel, light pink and stuff like that. And then you must have a space where they can just walk up and down, because that's what they do. They're stimming. They have a lot of energy and they go like this, they have to move up and down. And some of them who are ADHD, they might, their cars work like a sports car, like a McLaren, but the brakes are not that strong. So we have to make sure we monitor. And then also, these mentors and these job coaches make sure also that, they are taking their vitamins, supplements, and medicines, so as they can work and be up to par and as to the expectation of the employers.
All right. Now we are going slightly higher here, this question. So as a senator of any member of the parliament, probably, do you guys have any plans to introduce maybe a new legislations that promotes the benefit of persons with disabilities?
Okay, that's a very good question. Actually, for persons with disability, I am the one who will be always coming up with suggestions and how best we can empower the community. And I always remind everybody, which they don't really like, which is that everyone eventually will become disabled someday. And but it's things are not moving as fast as I like it to be, despite the passing of laws and standards due to the limited power of the National Council for the PWDs and absence of punitive provisions in the Persons with Disability Act 2008, Taoki 2008. Many buildings are still inaccessible to my community. Since there's no penalty or clause that says that, if you don't do this, you're going to be fined, you can be jailed. Everybody just do it. So right now, my team and I, we are working very closely to make sure that we can tighten up the Disability Act, the Taoki 2008, so as we could make sure that people don't abuse what's put aside for us, our facilities, and that our rights are being upheld, and that we can go to school like everybody else, we can work like everybody else. We have all the facilities that's for able-bodied. We are able to also experience that. We're able to just live like everybody else. So since this is clear proof actually, from the fact that you see a lot of people are not respecting the rights of the disabled, not giving us the opportunity to work and live like everyone else. This is clear proof that the non-enforceability of the PW Act, it shows that we need to make sure we work on it very quickly. If not, our community forever will have to be begging and always fighting, which I do all the time actually. So if we don't work on the act and there's no punitive provision in the statute, it will be a non-remedial provision and thus making it non-enforceable. As far as our act is concerned, the purpose of the law is actually to promote the enhancement of the livelihood, the lives of PWDs. However, as I mentioned to you, our rights is tidak bertaring. It doesn't have enough teeth. It doesn't have and we need to really we need to amend Article 8(2) of our Constitution to prohibit discrimination against persons with disability. We need to amend our Act to fulfill Malaysia's responsibility in the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, CRPD, and we also need to amend the PW Act, as I mentioned, to include enforcement mechanisms. We need to, as I mentioned, the Article 8(2) of our Constitution, it prohibits discrimination on the basis of religion, race, ethnicity, place of birth, or gender. However, disability is not one of the reasons. So the absence of such a ban does not reflect our desire to be a developed country with an inclusive society. There are 5 countries in the East and South Asia region that explicitly guarantee equality or non-discrimination for the disabled. These 5 countries are Fiji, Nepal, New Zealand, Thailand, and also Timor-Leste. Although Nepal is a low-income country, it still prohibits disability discrimination in its constitution. By amending our Article 8(2) to prohibit disability discrimination, Malaysia will send a strong message that we must stop segregating and separating persons with disabilities and start incorporating and integrating them into society. Secondly, we need to amend our acts so that it shifts from being an administrative law to a law which promotes and protects and ensures full and equal enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedoms with all persons with disabilities. My God, I can speak until tomorrow. There's so much to talk about. We need to define discrimination and harassment in various aspects, and describe available medications in the event of discrimination and harassment. So yeah, there's a lot of technical things, Shafiq, that we need to really look into. But all I can say is all this can only happen if our PW Act 2008 is, worked on and so as all this nonsense will stop.
Right. All right. So Dr. Ras, as we all know that while the government plays an important role in safeguarding the rights for a person with disabilities, So we know that the employers also have some rights or responsibilities towards their employees. I mean, especially those who are PWDs. So what maybe you can tell us or share with us, what are some of the advice that you can share to all the employees out there who have hired or who are planning to hire a PWDs as part of their workforce or their teams?
Okay. When I became disabled in 2002, for 6 years, I didn't have a job. The station that I was working with didn't want to take me back. I always tell myself to think good of the situation and also others, berbaik sangka. So I said, it's okay. It's probably because they don't know how to deal with someone who is a disabled in their news team, you know, to be a presenter or a news anchor. I don't blame them for being ignorant and not very smart. Being very, very polite here, but I think all that boils down to the fact that the Human Resource Department must enlighten and educate the employers and also the management, so as we see things differently, and that just because a person is disabled, that does not mean that they're unable to continue the skills, unless, of course, their condition deteriorates or they can't do all those stuffs. Okay, so 6 years I didn't have a job. I'm not embarrassed to say that, you know, even my family members and my close friends didn't know about it. I was surviving on rice and rice with salt and drinking tap water for 6 years. So that was not very pretty. And that's something that I will always remember for the rest of my life. And that is something that I promise I will not allow any of my friends to go through. So the human resource departments of companies, you know, must ensure that we do many, many things. First, we need to have empathy. We need to have respect. Don't ever think that somebody who's disabled, that you see physically disabled, is unable to do what you want them to do. Because there's so many of our staff out there, so many people out there who are also disabled, but we cannot see because they don't say that they're disabled. Sometimes, like people with rare disease, you know, they look normal, but in actual fact, they have a disability that we can't see. So I always ask people to have an open mind. Empathy is very important, and also respect. Kindness, you know, is somewhat lost, you know, so we have to bring it back, you know, to make sure that we have that respect and kindness to PWDs. Right. Human resource departments should ensure that job descriptions, person specifications, and recruitment advertisements are drafted so that they do not unjustifiably dissuade disabled applicants. Sometimes when there is an application and then it says OKU, if I say I'm an OKU, they see that I'm an OKU, they don't call me back. Or they see an OKU coming for the interview, they see me and they'll say, I'm sorry, the job already taken. I was like, what do you mean job already taken? It's only 9 o'clock. You say it starts at 9. I say, yeah, already taken. So what nonsense is that? Do not ever speak to someone like that. Do not ever do that. So we must always make sure that, you know, if a person with disability has the qualifications, then hey, give them the opportunity. Okay, because their input, you know, could be much better than a person who's able-bodied. And when you give us a job, we will work 1,000 times harder because we know we have to compete with you. So give us a chance, you know, and reasonable adjustments to job descriptions and person specifications are considered to accommodate us, you know, so please adjust. You know, janganlah, you know, don't, you know, somebody on a wheelchair and and then you tell me, oh, okay, I'm going to give you a job, right? This job needs for you to stack up boxes. I'm like, I mean, you know, so you have to be practical, you adjust with their condition. In order to give PWDs a fair chance to compete for jobs, the local governments, the municipalities, companies, entities must send job advertisements to national organizations, which represents the interests of PWDs. You know, when you actually send out these advertisements, you must make sure that it's an advertisement which is also friendly to PWDs. The application processes and the medium of communication are accessible. Make sure it is. Make sure that when you're calling people, if they're deaf, then make sure you have sign language interpreter. You know, if they're blind, then make sure that you have someone to assist them. You know, and advertisements and staff sourcing methodology are accessible to people with disabilities. Again, if you want to send out posters, please make sure that it's not too much, because sometimes people do posters, right? It's full of information. So my friends who have learning disability, like, what is that? They cannot comprehend too much information. And then you must make sure you have logos, you have boxes, and you put points, so that they go like, but I don't understand. What is he trying to say? Like, so, yes, a lot of people can read what you're trying to say, but a lot of people also can't read. So let's be sensible here, and language and processes are non-discriminatory and supportive of equalization of opportunities for all. So when you write something, please make sure it's sensitive. Don't say, oh, ini tidak dibuka untuk OKU. This is not open for the OKUs. This is not for the blind. This is not for the deaf. Just say, you have a way of wording it in such a way, and this is open for OKUs who are able to do this, like that. Sit down with a team and imagine that you are a disabled. How would you, as a disabled, perceive an advertisement that goes out? And then you're going to go, oh, okay, maybe we didn't word it properly, things like that. So candidates must be encouraged to state in advance any special arrangements which they may require to attend interviews. If they say, for example, they need a sign language interpreter, then by all means, just, it doesn't cost much. When you do things like this, okay, it's not about making money. It's about giving back to society, the amanah that is given to each and every one of us. We can sit there and sit at our table, a nice aircon room and stuff like that. But when our other friend who's disabled, who has a PhD, is not given a chance, and his salary is not up to par, and all he does is clerical work, come on, you gotta stop this nonsense. So when recruiting, the Human Resource Department should, be considerate and appreciate their qualifications. Please don't do this to us. My God, some of my friends, PhD holders, master's degree, and also they have all qualifications, but they're not given that chance because they're disabled. If you pay somebody 8 grand or 10 grand, then hey, pay my friends that same amount because they do the same job, for God's sake. Oh my God. So yeah, so many things that that needs to be looked into. But I think with a lot of people coming in together and getting a disabled to give their input will really help in making the environment not just a super duper environment of working people, but also an environment full of love and respect for one another. That's very important. I think that's something that we forget, yeah, Shafiq, as we go along in life, we forget the little things in life.
Right. I personally agree with you. I personally think that some of the things that you have just mentioned are pretty harsh, but basically that's a reality. So I am sure that many members of our audience today who are probably looking or viewing this or watching this program, they, especially those who are related to PWD or befriended PWD, they would like to know more what else that they can do to offer or what else that they can do to help those persons with disabilities in their daily life. So maybe as a person with disabilities yourself, that what are the things that we can offer to help them to know better, understand better their friends with disabilities?
Well, as you mentioned, get to know us first. We don't have horns or antennas on our head. We don't. We've worked together, Shafiq. You see, I move like everybody else. I eat like everybody else. Well, I laugh more and I giggle more. But, you have to make sure that when you meet someone who's an OKU or a PWD, look at us in the eye. Some of us are not able to speak like some of us. So when you see a friend who's disabled, or you see a PWD, an OKU, who is unable to speak properly, they slur or something like that, look at them, nonetheless, look at them and say, hello, how are you? We would like to do this and we have a job. Would you like to try it? You know, don't go, hello, would you like to, please don't do that. You know, speak to us like normal. Would you like to try? And then that person might not be able to speak properly. And then that person will bat their eyes and go, you know, and that person has a carer or a family member beside him or her. Do not ever look at the carer or the family member. Always first look at the disabled person. And then when you don't understand what the disabled person is saying, sometimes you just say, I'm sorry, would it be okay for me to speak to your carer to understand how best I can support you, please? So there is a way of speaking to us. We exist. We might not be able to speak as eloquently like a lot of people. Maybe our voice is not as clear. Maybe we are slurring or anything like that. But please look at us. And from then on, you gain that person's, how do I say it? You gain their trust, yeah, and they will be more comfortable to speak to you. So that's very important. How to support us in the workplace? Treat us like everybody else. We need a few things, assistance, meaning our tables, or maybe the apps, softwares, and we need to use a toilet which is accessible to us. We need spaces for parking, and we need ramps. Oh, some people, they want to get us to work with them, but they don't follow the specifications, and the ramps are like that. It's like Kilimanjaro. So if you want to kill me, don't kill me that way. For God's sake, just work around it. And daily life, very easy. Just treat us like everybody else. The respect that you give to everybody else, give the same respect to us, because that's what it is, being human, being there for each other and supporting each other. However different we might look, but we have feelings and we have a heart. So please have a heart.
Unfortunately, that is our last question. And YB, that's Senator Datuk Ras Adiba Razid. Thank you so much for joining us today on the show. We very appreciate it. So now, basically, that wraps up the first session of the second day of the International Public Employment Services Symposium for today. So do join us again next time, Datuk Ras. We hope to see you again and we can talk more about this, inshallah.
Definitely. Inshallah. Thank you for having me.
Right.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Datuk Ras. So until then, I'm Shafiq Adnan. Thank you for watching us and stay safe. Assalamualaikum.